I have heard it. One drink and it's over, or one take of heroin and it's over, or one take of opium and it's over. But, clearly that's not true.
Not for
Although
everybody.
for some people, it seems to be.
Mm-hmm. That's not true for everyone. Yeah.
I imagine it's the same with onenesses and ecstatic spiritual experiences. Although it's hard to measure these numbers because there's like billions and billions and billions of people who are joined in their religious fervors through probably blissful, or else, I don't know, there's something going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
These things are all intertwined, I guess, is the point.
Yeah. Welcome to the Driving to the Rest podcast. This is Inelia.
And this is Larry. Just a quick note. If you're hearing this, you're on our free feed, which means you'll only get the first part of this conversation.
To access the rest, go drivingtotherest.com and subscribe to the Wisdom Keeper Hour.
Join us and our expert panelists for detailed insights and the after party where you're invited to join in the conversation. Head over to drivingtotheres.com and become a subscriber.
Your $8 subscription keeps this podcast ad-free and helps us keep the lights on and maybe even get a decent cup of coffee. More importantly, it connects you with a community of passionate wisdom keepers like yourself. So if you're ready to go deeper, join us at drivingtotherest.com and support the journey. Greetings!
Welcome!
Today we're talking about carnal pleasures and the ascension process, sex and enlightenment.
When did you write this?
In 2009.
2009?
Yes.
Holy crow moly. How many years is that?
A lot.
19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Is it 25 or 24 now?
25.
16 years ago.
Wow.
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 Let's see if it's still, appropriate.
Okay. I'm going to read a little bit of the article and then we're going to talk about it. I think the title itself is quite a lot to unpack, right?
Carnal pleasure and the ascension process. I think you just said tantra.
Tantra?
Yeah, is that what tantra is?
Yeah. Well, I guess tantra methodology probably was a result of this particular kind of dynamic between the energies,
Don't know. I never actually, studied too much of it.
Mm.
But they have that giant book, don't they, with a whole bunch of positions, or is that something else?
Karma Sutra?
Yeah, is that also the same thing? Or is that even related?
Yeah, it's related, but I think it comes from what this article's talking about.
So all these things are derivatives of the, in a sense?
I think so, yeah. Because, and it's not just the ascension process. Yeah. I've also noticed that when people start learning like mystical energies and starting doing mystical work, psychic work, alchemical work, that often they will find energies coming in from a certain part of their body that then automatically through the cultural process, they imagine it to be like libido or that they have to have sex. And that energy, that chaos magic, for example, also.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah. Okay, so let me read a little bit.
Okay, let's start with it.
When we think of carnal pleasures or pleasures of the flesh, the first thing we think about is sex. Of course, there are other pleasures of the flesh, such as eating, drinking, enjoying nature, music, art, conversation, all the pleasures we gain from our physical senses, our body, and our mind.
And our dog, which we will move if he makes a bunch of noise.
How did he get back in the house?
He's a great manifester.
Anyways, so carnal pleasures are not incompatible with ascension, basically.
Because they include those others also, or they're just the same as those others, or they're different? Because carnal pleasure seems a bit different than sitting in the woods and really connecting with the forest to me, or eating.
Right, because carnal means flesh, pleasures of the flesh. And when we talk about pleasures of the flesh in the West, we normally immediately go to having sex or sexual pleasures. And the flesh has more than just sexual pleasures. It has like pleasures out of eating food. And so a lot of people get pleasures out of drugs and then become addicted to those type of pleasures, you know?
I think those are physical.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Chemicals.
Well, drugs is a pretty big word, so I think some drugs don't actually give you a physical pleasure. They're kind of like the plant medicines. Some people do. I mean, they do it once and they're like done for a year. That's like not carnally pleasurable, more soul pleasurable, but like you could qualify it as a drug almost. So I guess the term maybe
About literal pleasure here, not the
opiums and heroin.
yes, yeah.
I haven't actually tried those. So I understand they are very
smoking
pleasurable.
pot. Some people take a lot of pleasure out of smoking pot.
Alcohol, would that count?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I find that the main energy behind it is pleasure, whether it's pleasure both at a physical level, the chemicals it produces, lack of like the tension they believe the person is because of the drug of the alcohol, that they become less inhibited and all these type of things. They feel better in their skin, and they give physical pleasure too. It's literally like a physical pleasure.
Yeah, I mean, that's a kind of a tricky bit of that. It's like follow your bliss, follow, what makes you feel good. And inevitably, you're going to be sitting in the curb, hangover, wondering what brought me here.
Yeah, what happened, right? Yeah.
Yeah, how did this go sideways fast?
Yes, yes, indeed.
Okay. I think that was wrong.
Let me put it this way. How do you explain the feeling of bliss?
Ecstasy, pleasure, warm, like no worry, no stress, mostly no pain, just an alignment with joy.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that without endorphins in your body, could you experience bliss?
I couldn't say.
Mm. And have you heard of people going to bliss when they have a oneness experience or an ascension experience, an enlightenment experience?
Right, and I've heard they call that endorphins doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
But is that true? Is there some bliss experiences are far, far, far more impactful than others? You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, one oneness bliss ecstasy experience can alter your entire life. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily negative or positive, but definitely altered.
Yeah.
And one drunk isn't going to do it.
I don't know about that, because I remember my first husband was an alcoholic, and he told me when he was 13. He was 13. Yeah. His dad deemed that he was old enough to try beer. And he says he took one swig and that was over for him.
Yeah.
At 13, right?
Yeah. Okay, well, I mean, I have heard it. One drink and it's over, or one take of heroin and it's over, or one take of opium and it's over. But, clearly that's not true. Although
for everybody.
For some people, it seems to be.
Mm-hmm. That's not true for everyone. Yeah.
I imagine it's the same with onenesses and ecstatic spiritual experiences. Although it's hard to measure these numbers because there's like billions and billions and billions of people who are joined in their religious fervors through probably blissful, or else, I don't know, there's something going on, right? Mm-hmm. These things are all intertwined, I guess, is the point.
Yeah.
Some more powerfully than others, and some for some people and not for others. Mm-hmm. Hard to say which one is what for which one.
Yeah. Yeah. For the body, like the physical body, elemental, pleasure is a great motivator. Yeah. So the body would do a lot of things just to get a boost of pleasure, whether it's from some alcohol or drugs,
exercise or thrills,
or sex.
sex.
Yeah. And there's a lot of religions and teachings and things that tell people these two things, you have to choose between one or the other, right?
You can have spiritual advancement or sex, not both.
Right.
That kind of a thing, what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I guess you say carnal pleasures are not incompatible with ascension, but as usual, need to define the terms. What is ascension necessarily a spiritual experience?
Yeah, there can be physical ascension too. And by ascension here, the way that I use it is not the thing that happened to Jesus, right? It's like for here, ascension means raising your frequency, becoming lighter. Yeah. Higher frequency being, becoming a higher frequency being. That's what I mean by ascension. So qualifying that word to begin with.
So sex isn't incompatible with high frequency.
No.
Okay.
And
but the other
or raising your frequency.
What about the other carnal pleasures?
Some of them are, some of them are, right?
Is alcohol compatible with ascension?
No.
What about opium or heroin?
Not in the way that people use them. I would say probably not, period, because I haven't seen anybody who raise their frequency by using these type of things, right?
So we could say some carnal pleasures are not compatible with ascension, but some carnal pleasures are.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do we measure?
They can help, some of them.
Right. I can imagine in another world or in another sense, if someone were like completely in the throes of depression and their therapist gave them a small little bit of heroin, but they didn't know it was that, and they all of a sudden felt so much better for a moment, warmth of whatever that heroin makes you feel, because it clearly must make you feel really good to people to do that instead of freaking everything else.
Yes.
I suppose if you didn't know and you didn't have access to an unlimited supply or whatever, that one little taste of what's possible might count as a small ascension from one state to another. I'm sure the throes of depression and suicide too, maybe there is hope after all.
Yes, I suppose you could mention, you could interpret it that way. Yeah.
I guess it's like, it's tough, so they'll probably take a few.
Yeah. For our existence on Earth, love and pleasure are closely related. Love and pleasure are closely related. Physically speaking, they create a lot of the same chemicals. We say things such as, I love to dance, I love to eat, I love sex. I know I do.
Yeah. That part is interesting, that love and pleasure are closely related. The feelings that you get when you are in love
are pleasurable.
Right, they're pleasurable, but they're also kind of related to some of those feelings you get from like your first drink of whatever, or the heroin and things like that too. They're pleasurable.
Yeah.
It's interesting. They're like biochemical, maybe simulators of the real feeling of love, maybe.
Possibly, yeah.
Could be.
Yeah, it could be. All right, so going without is not the answer. Indulging every pleasure can also become a trap. The way it traps is by sex or physical pleasure being hijacked by the ego or the small self. And sometimes, I didn't add it here, but by the body. You can hijack it. It says, okay, this is what we're going to do, and this is what we're going to have. And we don't care about the rest. Because, do
you have an example of what you mean by that?
So, for example, a person's feeling lonely, right, in their home by themselves. So they open a bottle of booze and start drinking. And after an hour or two, they don't feel lonely anymore. They'll probably also start drunk dialing.
Drunk texting or whatever. Texting. Or get this great idea, let's go to the bar and go dancing.
Yeah, right. Suddenly they're not lonely anymore. So that can be a trap.
That could be a hijack.
Yeah, hijack, yeah. Generally speaking, I have found that when a person takes an action based on a low frequency energy, such as fear anger, greed, or loneliness, depression, whatever, when they take an action based on those frequencies, the results are not good. It just perpetuates that same thing over and over again.
Okay.
Take a sexual union, for example. Both parties fully aware that they are divine beings and want to create a sphere of divine love which is greater than the individual parts put together. It is a powerful concept, and I think that's what you were talking about with the Kama Sutra and the other one, Tantra magic, Tantra, whatever, and the chaos magic. Intention is the key here. Enjoy and love each other fully. When the words start coming out such as "you're mine and only mine," "I don't want you to share with you," "I don't want to share you," and other controlling and owning energies coming to the surface, the flow is no longer what it can be. Now, I'm going to this a little bit further, right? Because I'm not saying, yeah, shag everybody on the planet. It's the other energy, right? Because if you are in that kind of unified energy field, the last thing you're going to want to do is to put other people's fields in there, right? At a natural level, you don't even have to say it. It's basically you want to build on that field, and putting other people's energy into that field is going to destroy it. So you don't want to do that. Yeah.
Is that where it can maybe diverge from some of the Tantra stuff? Because
yeah,
I've heard that it's not quite so exclusive.
Well,
in some cases, maybe not at all. I'm not a real Tantra.
I've looked into
understand
Tantra practices. I was offered a lot of them back in the day. Many men wanted to, teach me Tantra magic or Tantras, whatever.
Tantra
meditations
and practices.
Enlightenment
through carnal pleasures.
Yes. And what I found was that their energy was very yuck. It was very low frequency. And they had fallen into that trap of the pleasure becoming a trap. Yeah. And only once did I hear one of these Tantra people, a woman, talking, saying one of the biggest hurdles for her as a practitioner was to realize and then find one person, one man, who was willing to practice with her, like for a commitment, let's say, of 10 years.
Yeah.
So that it could really get the full impact of that ascension process. Because he had been hijacked so much in, let's just have sex with everyone, which is another hijack, like, stop this. And it's so the energy of "you're mine and only mine and I don't want to share you," that is the energy of fear. And that fear wouldn't exist, wouldn't be there if that connection was true and real. Right? Because you wouldn't even have to think about it. You know that person wouldn't wander off and.
Okay, but it hasn't been my experience of life, I guess.
But you haven't had that thing.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about priors.
Me too.
And prior peoples that I've seen and thought they had that. Is like my experience has been. Well, our experience of Earth is pretty much limited to
dark light.
The dark light stuff that we have had in our past.
Right? Yeah.
Right. And so you're kind of like, it's kind of like an intermixing of these frequencies with this carnal pleasure and all of it's obviously rife with the false paths, I guess would be the right way to suggest it. It's like you can, but also you can't. And you want, and then you exclude, and that's not good, but not exclude isn't good either.
That's all the hijacks, though.
Those are all very.
That's all the hijacks.
I know. I'm
at a frequency level. The energies, and I go into the whole what happens. How do you make a long-lasting relationship in that course that I mentioned, right? The Sex, Love, and Soulmates in the New Paradigm course.
Right.
But it's like this is to do with raising your frequency, becoming more aware, and really perceiving yourself correctly. Yeah.
Right. It isn't It's to say that sex isn't exclusive of raising your frequency
No,
and that it can be a part of it,
it can.
but
But
it can also not be.
yeah, it can be the opposite also.
Okay.
Right? But a lot of people just take it's the opposite and stop everything.
It's either all yes or
Yeah.
all no.
Nuns, monks, priests, whatever,
Priests
they've
and
been
monks,
taught,
the nuns, right?
right?
Right.
That you have to stop all that in order for you to become enlightened or one with God.
Have any monks become enlightened
I don't know. Probably.
without sex?
I don't know.
So it doesn't exclude them from
No.
that experience, probably.
No.
But the exclusion of it isn't.
It's not relevant, actually.
But so you could, if you wanted to, though, be a monk, I suppose.
Yeah. So historically speaking, monks were told to be celibate, so they wouldn't have children, so they could stay in the monastery and work there instead of taking care of a family. Yeah.
It's because monks were men.
Yes.
Right.
Same with nuns.
It's okay if the girls have kids because they can be, monastery slaves, I suppose. Monastery whatevers. No?
So also with regards to priests, some few hundred years ago with the Catholic Church, I think the oldest son or the oldest daughter, I can't remember, were given to the church as a nun or a priest, and their inheritance came with them. So that all the inheritance would then go to the church.
Baby.
So the reasons for celibacy were not because of enlightenment, but they were
control.
They were to get the inheritance and the work.
Oh, that's funny.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not naive. Hold on, let me grab this puppy dog.
Okay, you're not naive?
I'm pretty sure in the Catholic Church there's plenty of they talked about it. Not the best kind of sex, I suppose.
What, the Catholic Church?
the choir boys or whatever,
God.
So I mean,
well,
every time we dump into this water, it's full of mud.
Yes, and it's on purpose because the sexual energy is actually extremely powerful. So if you hijack it and make it nasty and dirty and corrupted, then you have a world that is being polluted by that energy every single second by billions of people around the world.
It's that chaos magic that you were talking about that seems to work really quite well in the light dark.
No, chaos magic is a different thing. They use that energy with intent. Yeah. It's very different. No, I'm talking about all the people who are having sex and feeling guilty about it, or having degraded sex and torturing people and raping them and stuff like that. All that energy fills the planet with disgusting energies that keeps the frequencies of the power hours paradigm on us. Even at an individual level. Like I worked with thousands of people, and I haven't met one person who's clear in that energy. They all carry something. Yeah.
That's curious, isn't it?
So they put a lot of energy into polluting that power.
Right.
And that power is like an energy that is the person. It's the actual person's energy that they're feeling. Yeah. Both parties can go into the ascension through pleasure relationship with an agreement to be exclusive with each other for as long as it takes. This is actually recommendable, especially at the start when both parties will be dealing with a lot of love flow and change. However, the problem begins when it is not an agreement, but a necessity due to insecurities, control, fear, anger, possessiveness, and all that type of thing. That energy of agreement, right?
Right. I mean, at some level, just saying that you want to be exclusive for a high frequency purpose, but not for low frequency reasons. I mean, I'm imagining if it were to happen, the low frequency reasons would be coming in, right? It's like you almost I mean, I think it's defensible even in some courts that if your wife's infidelis and you catch them, then you can actually shoot the guy or something.
I've never heard that. But...
I think it's a defense that you can literally use some places.
Oh yeah, crime of passion.
crime of
passion. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
They're actually the legal defense in some places. So it's like, how do you differentiate between the one and the other? Because the one is made in the consideration of ascension, and the other is the response to, boy, it didn't work out, right? It's like the best intentions, but maybe in the process of doing your ascension work, the things that waken up come awake, and you find the partners that you picked and the frequency that you were don't match the frequency that you are.
Yeah. Then what do you do?
Now, what do you do, right? You pledged 10 years of whatever, and you find that, oh, well,
that's not going to work.
We're a different color here, actually. Well, I guess you could change your mind.
You can just split up, not pollute the energy with 10 other people.
Right. Well, yeah, I could see how this is a path that can be fraught with temptations or distractions, or
if you're still stuck in a low frequency mode. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Okay, so some of the people I have helped by providing an ascension consultation report becoming sexually aroused during the process, and it puts that, like, they go, you know, and they're going, I have to stop, you know, and they get very confused.
I don't know if confused to be the word.
Yeah, it is.
Confused.
Yeah. So doing an ascension for a consultation, and then suddenly they're like horny. They're thinking about their boyfriend, you know. Yeah. So an understanding of how the energy of love and that of sexual pleasure are linked psychologically speaking helps to get past this stage, as it can otherwise be a stopping point for the person involved. The stopping point becomes about because of a lot of us sexual energy and work of the spirit seems to be incompatible due to our upbringing. And I've found that also with people who are first stepping into the mystical energy work, you know, suddenly it's like they can't think of anything else and they just want to go home and grab their boyfriend or their girlfriend or whatever it might be. You know, it's like, okay, let's get that over with. And then we can get going, you know, on this other thing. And then, of course, they forget about it. The other time that I saw it, and it was really cool how he explained it and the solutions he came up with, was that guy, Monroe, right, in his autobiography.
Oh, yeah. I remember he had a lot of carnal things going on there.
So every time he stepped into, well, at a certain point, every time he stepped into the astral realm, all he wanted to do is have sex, right? It's like, oh my God, he started looking around and he found that a lot of people in the astral, I mean, we're talking about the 40s and 50s, and those people were really repressed, you know, sexually repressed. So it's like, step out of the real world and the first thing you want to do is find a naked girl or a naked boy and get at it, you know? And
isn't that what you found when you went there?
As a teenager, yeah.
It was like somebody was guiding you, say, no, you don't want to go there, don't look there, or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, when I was very little, yeah. I was really small, and I had a teacher who popped up in the astral to make sure I wasn't walking around there by myself, right?
Like, yeah.
And walking down this road, it was more like it looked like a country road, right? And I look at the field, and there's literally a mountain of naked people on top of each other, trying to pleasure themselves and each other, you know?
What?
And I'm looking at them going, what is wrong with them? What are they doing? And the guy, this adult guy, looks at me and says, don't look at them. Just carry on. You know, like, whatever. Like, what are they doing? But anyway, so...
It makes me curious, that point, that your physical body is young and that your astral body also is young. When I assume your astral body had more to do with your soul, and their soul is like much older.
No, the astral world is very close to the physical world, and your astral body is part of your physical body, so it will look the same. When you go beyond the astral world, that things change. Anyway, so Monroe was saying that he was getting hit by these desires and he couldn't get past them. And then he realized it was his physical body. right? That the astral was an aspect of the physical body, and the physical body wasn't like getting past, I just want to have sex. Often he would pull himself out and grab his wife who's laying next to him. And he was like, oh, well, that wasn't that important. And then he realized that he stepped out, and then one day he thought to tell his body, yeah, I know that's important, and we'll get on with that, right? But as soon as we do XYZ, which is the thing that he'd come out into the astral to do, like visit a particular lab and try and communicate with a particular person who was waiting for communication from the astral, this type of thing. Says, let's get on with that. And as soon as we're done, we're totally having sex, right? And the body became very happy about that. It's like, okay. And then he started doing all his work and everything. And after a few years, he didn't have to say that. And often, like at the beginning, he had to comply because otherwise the body would cop on that, it was just putting it off. But after a while, it wasn't even an issue anymore. And he went away. So it's like that type of hijack that I'm talking about. Right? It's like the person is going into the frequencies and they're raising their frequency, and suddenly they reach that frequency that is their natural one, which is really high frequency, and all of their physical body goes into bliss, and the energies are coming in through their the area where their private parts are, their pelvis and stuff. That's where the energies connect in the back there. So it gets really energetic, and the only reason they've learned in their life that area gets energetic is because they have to have sex now. So then that gets hijacked. And then they learn to like make it grow and expand. And it's like, that's actually just my energy for signature. Right. And then they get past wanting to go and grab their boyfriend or their girlfriend, And then they can do work, just like Monroe just said, okay, And when I learned that little nugget of wisdom, I told other people to just tell that to their body. I said, yeah, well, we're going to do that, but, let's get to this next level of awareness and expansion, and let's look at the universe with these eyes first, and then we'll go back and grab our boyfriend or girlfriend. And the body was quite happy to do that. So this is the type of thing I'm talking about here. About, if you're working, like, so going into deep meditation or whatever ascension work you do or enlightenment work you do, and then suddenly you find yourself all sexually stimulated, what's happening.
So what are you supposed to do with it? So you're a single woman or a single man, or even a married woman or a married man, and your partner's not interested in this ascension work stuff. Matter of fact, they're the opposite of interested. They think you're probably in some weird whatever
sex cult,
or I'm sure their imagination's more vivid than the imagination you have of what they think you're thinking. Either way, you do these ascension courses and meditations, and they start activating things, and you find there's people of the opposite sex or the same, whatever your proclivity is, who are doing this too and feeling the same thing. And it's like naturally you're interested in each other now.
Right.
I mean, it's just sort of a side effect of being in proximity with a lot of bodies who are becoming aroused plus higher frequency. So then what do you do?
So I do have the solution here, and I have used that in rooms with people who I'm working with. The energy of the person feels during the process, the one they become aroused with, is divine love. It is in fact themselves they're feeling, their true essence. The key here is to let the physical feelings to fully express themselves energetically and let them expand as much as it can, engulfing the entire body, the room, the entire earth if needed. That energy is part of the person and has to be embraced by the person. Sexual arousal and libido often will increase when traveling the route of love to ascension, which is why I often suggest to my students to get a boyfriend or girlfriend. Hey, why not enjoy the process, right?
So
the cool advantage of it.
Yeah. Well, that is great.
Yeah. And other pleasures too. It's like basically there are a lot of spiritual practices that say deny the body, right? Deny them of certain foods or pleasure in food, deny them of sex or pleasures in sex, deny them of even enjoying a sunset, or on the opposite. And there's some cultural or religious practices that put the body in constant pain.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, this the mom of a different, one of my friends, right? She, first of all, always wore brown, very, very drag brown clothes. And I was very shocked to see this. And I said, why does your mom always wear those horrible looking clothes and they're all brown? Because my mom used to wear like the brightest colors. And she said that's because she made a promise to Lourdes, the saint or virgin of the Lourdes, and it's where they wear brown. So if she got a certain thing, I think one of her kids was sick and she wanted them to live, and made a promise that she'd always wear brown and never take pleasure in anything or whatever. So now for the rest of her life, she was going to wear brown. And also she put these things in her shoes that every step she took would be painful when she walked. And I was like, wow.
Well, yeah, that's the same kind of thing. I mean, this article and the podcast I was listening to earlier actually had to stop because I just couldn't listen anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It was using this carnal pleasure, I suppose, sex, and what of it the opposite way, to bring about slaves and MK Ultra and trauma-based mind controls, and it's all sexual in nature.
Yeah, I've seen that too. Yeah.
So it's like
Very perverted
carnal.
stuff.
I don't know if you would even call it
Connected.
carnal pleasure. It's like it's
Connected to it.
sexual energies, but is it
Yeah.
actually this, or is it something else
It's
entirely? What are they doing?
It's a complete hijack of the carnal pleasure, yes. And then aligning that pleasure with something else, right? So something that is really degraded.
Yeah,
And
disturbing.
then you have a slave,
So it's important to work with this energy. I think that a couple of things that come to mind. One is that the course that you created, what do we call sex, love, and
soulmates in the new paradigm.
Soulmates in the new paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can talk about the chapters. There's like 6 chapters to that. We'll look over them really quick. And I remember doing that course. You had it at 5:30 in the morning. I had to get up at 5:30. I'm not a morning person. No. 5:30 was shockingly early for me.
It was. It was a live course many, many years ago. I think 2010, maybe. And 6 a.m. in the morning start.
Yeah.
On the dot. 6 a.m. You had to be ready.
It cost a pretty penny, and you had to be there on time, and you had to be ready to go. And there were meditations at 5:30 in the morning or something. It's like, this is a challenge. But it was a life-changing course.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah. For sure.
So, yeah, can we look at the chapters?
I don't have them with me.
Yeah, just push the button, honey.
This one?
The button on your thing. It says sex, love, to the class, right? And there's the chapters that show up right there. So,
oh, yes. Okay, so there's
courses. I'm sorry. It's 6 courses or something.
Yeah, it should be like units instead of course, but yeah.
So
one of them is falling in love.
Right, falling in love. And how does that happen? Why does it happen? What's is it good? Is it bad? Mm-hmm. Is it fine?
And we're gonna find out in our Wisdom Keeper Hour.
Okay, we're gonna look in the Wisdom Keeper Hour.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Well, let's just read the rest of the course. What the things we will be talking about. Falling in love, is it good? Is it bad? Is it natural? Is it like a distraction? Should you be falling in love?
Or not, yeah.
Okay, the separation.
The other, what is it? Right? And what's its understand its relation to love and physical experience in the new paradigm?
Oh yeah, is that the kind of thing with the flames or whatever?
2 points of view, 2 consciousnesses, 2 beings that relate to each other. What is it?
Okay.
3, does a soul have sex?
Does a soul have sex? Right. Remember, we were just talking about the astral.
Is the astral physical or is it a soul thing?
Is astral even a physical real?
Yeah.
All right.
Gender as opposed to sex.
Which in these times we really need to review gender and sex because I think that it's been intentionally
messed up
a little bit.
Completely. Not a little bit, but completely.
Completely messed up. Yeah, because I think that
gender as opposed to sex and as opposed to sexual predispositions.
Yeah.
They're all different things. You need to learn about this.
Okay. The urge to find the one. Oh,
twin souls, twin flames. Yes.
That urge, is that a good urge?
Well, we're gonna find out, aren't we?
I mean, for some people, myself included, for a very long time, that was the only drive.
Yes.
To find the one. You remember?
I remember.
But you only saw like 2 years or 3 years. 4 years of a smidgen of it.
Oh my gosh.
That thing goes for your whole life, you know.
Are you still looking for the one, honey?
I found the one, honey.
You did? Oh, thank you. That's nice. Okay, so the 6th one is dropping the dream. And this can have misunderstandings.
Dropping it?
Yeah.
Well, I
find out what it means.
I'm here to tell you, if you are successful at that, you will be successful.
Yes.
Just saying, that's probably the hardest thing to do. But the moment you do and not pretend you do, everything changes.
Everything changes and you actually do find a one.
Yes. I guess it'd be a good idea to tune into the Wisdom Keepers Hour.
Yeah, we're going to have a nice little review of these things. But it doesn't replace the course. I mean,
Right. I would suggest
if you're really serious about this, just get the course.
Because,
come on.
I mean, I think I felt a little bit like the carnal pleasure part and all of the distractions along the path were like overwhelming, and they can be, although if you do this course, they become much, much more unentwined from it. And it can be a clean, high frequency experience.
Okay.
Without the hijacks.
Yes. Yeah.
Highly recommend it.
All right. See you in several seconds.
In moments. If you're subscribed to our second part, the Wisdom Keeper Hour, we'll have 4 experts.
And I can't
experts in their fields. I'm curious to see how this goes because
I think they've all done the class, right?
I'm certain they've all done the class, and all of them are in different stages of finding the one.
Yes.
So that's what we have to say.
All right.
Love you, honey.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the second half of Drive Into the Res, the Wisdom Keeper Hour. We're talking about carnal pleasures and the ascension process, sex, and enlightenment. Hi, Larry. Hi, Anelia.
Hi there.
Of course, for our second half Wisdom Keeper Hour, we are joined by our panelists, myself included. I'm Ashley Swale, CEO of iBen's Academy. I'm iBen's method mentor, corporate HR leader, mystic, and yoga teacher.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Kara Kinsigley. I'm an iBen's method mentor, a pedagogy expert, entrepreneur, healer, gamer, and mystic.
Hi, everyone. I'm Fred Guerin, aerospace engineer, pilot, dancer, past life regressionist, healer, and student of the occult.
Hi, I'm Liliana Rogero, mystic, mentor, psychic meditation teacher, architect, and founder of El Método iBens, the official channel of Inelia's work in Spanish. Hi.
Welcome, panelists.
Hi. So we might as well jump right into it. We're talking about sexual energy. So how is sexual energy different than other energies? And if it is, what I had heard is it's some of our best energy to do the work that we do. Is it our best energy for ascension work?
So we're talking about sexual energy or the energy that gets triggered or starts growing when you're doing like a meditation or mystical work, or which one are we talking about here?
We're talking about the energy. It's let me see. How can I say it? Not the sexual energy, like they give you the urge to have sex, but the energy that's like starts in your perineum and that exists in your body.
Yeah, because there's two different things, and that's a really good point. That there is something called sexual energy that is there to create life, that is there to get the things flowing so that you and another person can join together in a sexual way. That's a very specific energy. It's sexual energy. And the energy that gets triggered in that area when doing ascension work, mystical work, or other, the similarities end after you step away from the area. But because of our cultural upbringing, anything that makes us feel anything in that area, then we interpret as sexual energy and then veer off and go that way.
Join us for the rest of this conversation at driveintotheres.com.
And when you go to driveintotheres.com and you join in the rest of the show, rest of the second hour, you also get to join in the after party. 9 o'clock on Fridays, we all get together, including you.